All right, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's July 1775. The air is thick with tension between the American colonies and Great Britain. Revolution is basically on everyone's lips. But then, right in the middle of all this political turmoil, a really strange summons makes its way across the Atlantic. And it's about to pull two very unlikely colonists into the dark, beating heart of the British Empire itself. So who sent this message? Well, it's from a man named Ephraim Holmes, a pretty well-respected detective in London, and he's got a huge problem on his hands. He's looking at a series of just brutal murders, the kind of thing that should have everyone on high alert. But Scotland Yard? They seem to be completely ignoring it. And Holmes has this gut feeling, this conviction, that the answer isn't in London at all. Nope, he thinks it's 3,000 miles away, back in the colonies.
So the big question is, right? Who on earth is Holmes calling for? This is where our story really kicks off, introducing a couple of unlikely heroes who are about to get thrown into an incredibly dangerous quest.
Let me introduce you to our duo. First, you've got Josiah Jenney. He's a proofreader, super meticulous, the kind of guy who can spot a misplaced comma from a mile away. But his real talent, deciphering cryptic clues. And then there's his assistant, Tom Gaskerville. He's young, sharp as a tack, and get this, he has a photographic memory. So by day, yeah, they're just two guys working at the local Gazette. But by night, they're the ones quietly solving the crimes and injustices that the rest of colonial society just chooses to ignore. And their mission? Well, it's a doozy. They have to travel all the way to London, the very center of the empire, to solve these horrific murders. The victims are prostitutes in the Whitehall district, women the authorities have basically written off as unimportant. So you see, they aren't just solving a crime here. They're going up against a whole system, a system built on apathy and prejudice. And guess who gives them the official go-ahead? None other than Benjamin Franklin himself. Now, Franklin's a clever guy. He sees this as more than just a murder case. For him, it's a golden opportunity. Not only can they get justice for these women, but they can also expose just how inefficient the British authorities are. And, that could be pretty useful for the whole colonial cause. So he doesn't just send them off, he equips them with this awesome kit of what he calls latest curiosities and even arranges their secret passage on a ship. But just getting to London, man, that was an ordeal. We're talking a secret departure in the dead of night, 6 long weeks crammed into a tiny space on a ship being tossed around by the Atlantic. Oh, and the constant threat of being attacked by privateers. Yeah, this was no pleasure cruise. This was a serious, life-on-the-line commitment to finding the truth. So after somehow surviving that journey, they finally set foot in London. And it is a total culture shock. I mean, this sprawling, smoky city is nothing like the small, orderly towns they're used to. They're instantly plunged into this labyrinth of choking fog, suspicious glances, and just straight-up hostility. And the welcome party? Oh, it's just one guy, David Farrington, the King's chief detective. And you can just hear the contempt dripping from his voice. He doesn't see them as help. To him, they're an insult. A couple of provincial colonials sticking their noses where they don't belong. Right from the get-go, it's clear, this guy is going to be a major problem. And Farrington isn't their only headache, not by a long shot. They're immediately blocked from crime scenes, they're constantly getting lost in the disorienting fog, and their American accents, yeah, that just makes everyone suspicious of them. It's like every time they get a solid lead, poof, it just disappears. It almost feels like someone is one step ahead of them, actively sabotaging their work. So they're pretty much lost in this hostile city, and they figure out really fast, they can't do this alone. They need a guide. And they find one in a pretty unlikely place. His name is Adam Watson. He's a retired military surgeon, kind of gruff on the outside, but he knows London like the back of his hand. All its secrets, its hidden alleys, how the society really works. Let's be real, without this guy, they would have been toast. Okay, so now with Watson on their side, they actually start making some headway. They're piecing the clues together, connecting the dots. But the closer they get to the truth, the more they realize this isn't just a simple murder case. They've stumbled onto something way bigger, a conspiracy that is far more terrifying than they ever could have imagined. And suddenly, it all makes sense. Why their leads kept going cold, why they were hitting brick wall after brick wall. The killer wasn't some random phantom lurking in the shadows. No. He was an insider. He was one of them, a member of Scotland Yard, watching and undermining their every single move.
Then comes the confrontation. In a foggy alley, practically in the shadow of Scotland Yard, the killer finally shows his face. And it's him, Chief Detective David Farrington. And he doesn't just confess, he boasts. There's no remorse, just this twisted pride. He actually believed he was cleansing the city, doing a necessary evil for the good of the empire. The very man sworn to uphold the law was the monster they'd been hunting. So, Farrington confessed. Great. Case closed, right? Well, not so fast. Remember, this is the 1770s. There's no DNA, no modern forensics. A confession from a man this powerful, especially a confession made to a couple of colonials, it means absolutely nothing without cold, hard, undeniable proof. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you possibly prove it? How do you convict the king's own chief detective when it's basically his word against yours? They needed a trump card, something scientific, something nobody could argue with. And the answer, believe it or not, was sitting right there in that little kit from Benjamin Franklin. This is where Franklin's genius really shines. Jenney pulls out one of those curiosities, and it's a revolutionary technique for lifting fingerprints. I mean, think about it. He just gently dusts the surface with some fine powder, brushes away the excess, and boom, like magic, the invisible is made visible. This is forensic science being born, right here. And this is the aha moment, the real nail in the coffin. Jenney manages to lift a faint print from the hilt of the murder weapon. Then he gets a crystal clear print from that pipe Farrington is always smoking. He puts them side by side and it's a perfect match. The proof is right there in black and white. The same hand that held the pipe of authority was the one that held the killer's blade. It's absolutely undeniable. Okay, so now they have their silver bullet. Undeniable scientific proof. But now comes the really tricky part. Navigating the political minefield to make sure that justice is actually served. And to do that, they have to go straight to the top. And they do it. With help from Holmes and Watson, they manage to get a private audience with King George III himself. I mean, can you just picture that scene for a second? Two colonials standing in the palace, using this brand new science to accuse one of the king's top men of being a serial killer. You can bet the king was shocked. But the evidence? The evidence doesn't lie. And just like that, it's over. Farrington is arrested, his career and reputation destroyed. Justice finally is served. And think about it. It took one small team of colonial detectives to do what the entire British establishment either couldn't or simply wouldn't do. They gave a voice back to those forgotten women. But the story doesn't end there. When they get back to America, they give their report to General George Washington. In Washington, he sees the bigger picture. This wasn't just about solving a crime. He points out that even on the brink of war, they worked side by side with honorable Englishmen for a common cause. He tells them that, in a way, they've laid the first small brick in a bridge that will one day have to be built between their two nations. And really, that's the thought I want to leave you with. This whole thing started as a dark murder mystery, right? But it ended up being about something so much bigger. It showed that even when two nations are about to tear each other apart, the shared pursuit of justice and truth can remind us of our common humanity. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Can that shared pursuit unite even the fiercest of enemies?